Just Minding My Business Radio, where we are moving at the speed of God, learning what we didn't know we didn't know. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
So grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use.
"10X Your Business starting today with digital marketing from Just Minding My Business Media, LLC on JMMB Media TV or Mindset Movers TV. jmmbradio@gmail.com. Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC. Our daily lives are full of possibilities. Our perspective can make the possibilities into realities. Albert Einstein reportedly stated, "There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle." Today, we welcome to the mic Alicia Davon, who is a co-owner and instructor at ERWAN Davon Teachings, an enterprise where in the past 25 years, she, along with her partner, have successfully taught 12,000 singles and couples how to have exceptional relationships. Together, they run a high-end boutique service in the Bay Area of San Francisco. ERWAN Davon Teachings are also available as online coaching and courses offered to people worldwide. Welcome, Alicia.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. So I always like to start with, how did you get on this road? How did this all happen?
Yes. Well, I was really lucky in that my upbringing was relatively good. You know, I think it was great. I grew up in a suburb of LA. I have two great parents and a younger brother, and we're all really close. And well, it's funny because after having been in the field of psychology and supporting people for almost 20 years, I find that many people don't have a super stable or solid upbringing, and I feel very lucky to have had that. However, when I went to college, I ended up getting interested in psychology, and I was sort of like not quite adjusting super well, and ended up going into therapy myself. And I realized that there's so much more to life than what I was currently experiencing. My upbringing was kind of sheltered in that way. And so I went down the rabbit hole of psychology, therapy. You know, here in California, there's 1,000,001 personal growth workshops you can do. I would go to workshops and, you know, we'd be howling at the moon outside and playing instruments, or we would be in a sweat lodge or drumming, or everybody crying, or, you know, all sorts of stuff, you know, and I was getting to know myself at deeper and deeper levels. So I decided that that's what I wanted to do for my life, is support people. So I finished my master's degree in psychology. I was training to be a therapist. And then that's when I met my husband, ERWAN, who had started our organization. He had started it himself 10 years prior. And I just thought what he was doing was really cool. I started dating him, and he let me visit one of his courses called the Pleasure Course, which was all about supporting singles and couples and their love lives. And then I couldn't believe how fun it was. I mean, I was engaged in therapy and all this deep, you know, important work, but it was very serious. And I remember the course was held in his living room, and we were all sitting around and learning all this cool stuff about romance and sexuality. And I just was like, this is where I want to be. So that's the very short version of how I ended up here. Is I, instead of just having a boyfriend, I ended up joining his organization, taking it over, and now we teach together.
And as Ruth pointed out, you've been doing this now for over 25 years, and you have over 12,000 singles and couples. So that's really, really amazing. So we just want to ask a couple of questions about the various stages of a relationship. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So one of the ways that we support people, I'll kind of outline the 5 main parts of our method, and then I'll zero in on these stages of relationship. So when a single or a couple comes to us, they have particular goals, either to get into a relationship if they're single, or couples often come to us to learn how to increase chemistry or bring the passion back into their relationship. Our method in helping people accomplish their goals includes 5 parts. The first part is consciousness, which is bringing awareness to hidden relationship patterns that we all have. Our minds are just all crazy, I think, including mine. We've been conditioned and we have all these past experiences that, we're just, so bringing light to all of that, not like we have to change it because it's bad, but just kind of knowing what we're walking around with. Then making contact with our deepest selves, which, you could call that anything, your soul or your spirit or your true self or whatever that you is that never changes. The third part is chemistry, how to unleash the chemistry between the masculine and the feminine. The fourth part is choreography, which is learning how to dance through the stages of relationships successfully. The fifth part is cultivation of your sexual potential. So those are the 5 parts. The stages of relationships simply refers to that most relationships go through stages, right? Like you go from not knowing the person to meeting them and then dating, and then that can progress into more of a boyfriend, girlfriend, or it could be girlfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend, but you're kind of just more going steady. And then there's a long-term committed relationship, whatever that looks like, marriage for a lot of people. So Erwan and I have identified the main skills that make each of those stages succeed, which is really useful to know because, like some of us are really good at meeting people and flirting and maybe starting to date, but then when it comes time to actually give it up and commit, there's issues, and others of us are like, I'm like this or was like this, you meet and it's like, all right, when are we getting married? Let's commit. Do you want kids? Right away. So it's useful to know that there's certain skills that are really good for the beginning stage, certain skills that are good for the middle stage, and certain skills that are good for the long term. And you don't want to get rid of any of those skills. So do you want me to go over the skills? Do you want me to list them?
Yes, okay. What are they?
Yeah. So initially, the main skill in going from not being romantic to then being romantic is flirting, which is kind of a give and take, playful. Well, it's flirtatious. You notice the person, you give them a compliment, you give them that special look that means I like you, I'm interested. So, and there's a lot more in that, for example, sometimes people that are single are nervous to do that. I know I was. It's like you find yourself at a party or, a house party or a dating event or something, or a bar, and you're kind of like, what do I do first? It's good to just socialize with the person, keep it light and casual. And then we call it testing the waters, little micro gestures. Maybe you touch the person on their shoulder and then you let it go and you see how they respond, or, you look at them and you smile and then you kind of look away and, you kind of gauge, okay, is this person returning my gestures versus hopping on the bar stool and saying, hey, I really like you. Can I buy you a drink? Without really knowing how they're going to respond. Because if they respond badly, then you're stuck sitting there.
Yes. Yes. And sometimes that approach is not received very well.
Right. I mean, you really want to calibrate yourself to the person, and where they might be or how they might be feeling. So once you're, let's say, there's a lot more about that stage, but let's say you get into the zone and, you ask the person out and there you are on the date and you're kind of dating the person. The three skills that are really good are, first of all, learning to have fun, which some of us are really good at. Others of us, need a little work. Keeping things light, going on fun dates, going on the Ferris wheel, going ice skating, going to the rock climbing gym, then learning how to kind of turn yourself on and turn the other person on. Like, this is a date, this is a potential love relationship. So you want to, again, know how to flirt. Like ERWAN, when we were dating, he used to take me to this sushi place that has red velvet walls and like really interesting sushi rolls with like avocado and strawberry on them. And, he knew how to stimulate my senses and kind of turn the situation on. And the third skill is, it's good to pay attention to what the woman or the feminine person wants in the dynamic. So a classic example is a man or the masculine person might say, well, where would you like to go for dinner? And then she might say, oh, I don't care, you decide. That's a red flag. So you want to, as a woman or the feminine person, either say something that you're excited about doing, or if you don't know that, the guy or the masculine person could give a menu. Oh, well, do you want Italian? Or there's a pizza place around the corner. I could take you to this fancy restaurant. And kind of when the feminine's appetite is prioritized, things go pretty well.
Mhm.
That's interesting. I've never heard it put that way, but that's very, very interesting.
Yeah. So that's that first stage of relationship. We call it new and exciting. Then the next stage, if you make it that far, where you're kind of getting into a more committed relationship, we call it best friends and lovers. You're going deeper, you're being more vulnerable with each other. And the good skills to cultivate include communication, which we say has two sides to it: honesty and approval. So you want to be good at saying what's on your mind, but also be nice about it. Some of us have no problem being like, here's what's on my mind, and this is what I think, and I don't like this, or, but like they forget to say, and I love you. I'm telling you because I love you. And others of us kind of beat around the bush eternally, right? So having those skills, the skill of lifestyle design is an interesting one. These days, we're all so busy that it's really making time and space for the relationship becomes a thing. It's kind of like in the earlier stages of relationship, either you don't see each other that often, or you're just so excited to, because you've got that like novelty to the relationship. But as you go deeper, it's important to like schedule time and make sure you have enough time together. And then the third skill is what we call sex education, which is not like the sex education we learned in 7th grade. That was good too. You obviously want to know how to have safe sex and what can happen if you don't, and it's important. But what I mean by sex education is more like learning about each other's bodies. In the beginning of relationship, it's typical that a lot of that excitement and chemistry just comes for free because the person is new to you. Mm-hmm. But as you go into relationship for longer, learning how to give and receive pleasure and expand pleasure in the body, learning how to just know how to pleasure your partner and their specific body is really important. So a lot of couples miss that. And then the chemistry decreases and they wonder like, okay, is this still the right person? I'm not feeling it for them like I used to. But what I say is you can deliberately learn how to increase the chemistry.
I can relate to a lot of what you're talking about. So how do people get in contact with you if they want to be a part of your group?
Yeah, so the best way is through what I call a love life consultation. So anybody who's listening, I mean, you ladies included, if you're interested in learning more about working with us, I'm offering a free love life consultation. So it's a conversation on Zoom or by phone, and we'll get personal. You can share with me whatever's going on that's of top concern to you romantically, goals, challenges, desires, whatever. I'll coach you a little bit, and then I'll share with you how our programs work. And if it seems like a fit, then I can make a recommendation in terms of which one. And the way to set this consultation up is by texting our school. The number's 415-308-9580. That's 415-308-9580. And I'll also send you ladies a link that people can click if they prefer to set it up that way. And our website is pleasurecourse.com. So they can always, people can just go check us out there.
Well, very quickly, could you talk a little bit about overcoming relationship patterns that we inherit from childhood? Because I think that has a lot to do with the way people relate to each other.
Yes, it has so much to do with that. And sometimes we sort of underestimate that. You know, people come to us, they're like, I just want to learn, you know, some new skills. And we teach a lot of skills and tips and tricks and things like that. But the driving force, like what drives us in romantic relationship, is what ERWAN and I call your relationship blueprint. So this is like the conglomeration of experiences and things we were taught and just ways that we were conditioned from a very young age, how we were taught to see the world, you know, so this includes like how our parents were, like our relationship with them. Were they together? Were they not together? What were their personalities like? How did that rub off on us? You know, what did we get from teachers and from the cultures and our early experiences in school? So we kind of build a whole template through which we see the world. And that has us see things like really, you know, brightly and yay, the world's a wonderful place. But more often it also has us, you know, okay, well, I can't really trust, and men are like this and women are like that. And it's limiting to be driven by these things. It's not bad, but it's limiting. So becoming aware of your unconscious, like ways that you're thinking about the world, can be really valuable. And then you can see, oh, like I feel that way because of this experience, you know, and when it comes up in the moment, you know, let's say you're dating someone new or you're sitting with your relationship partner and you start to get that familiar feeling, and you might want to pull away, or you might want to criticize, or you might want to do something, you can just recognize, oh, okay, this is part of my patterning. And then you have a choice as to how you interact in that moment.
Is there any particular patterns that you've come across that are obvious and destructive?
Really good question. Yeah, there's one that's like very popular in the San Francisco Bay Area and probably beyond. It actually is very similar to maybe a more classic pattern of the grass is always greener, you know, like these days, for single people, let's say. We have dating apps, you know, there's a million, you can just like get on an app and swipe around and you have like millions of people to look at. And there's this sense of, well, I could always find somebody else. And then there's this thing that I mentioned in the San Francisco Bay Area. People are very big on polyamory and having multiple partners. And, you know, when that really works for a couple, that's great, but it's very rare. And I see a lot of people actually kind of, I don't know, like using that as a way to not commit in a relationship. And it's just, when you have one foot in and one foot out, it's never going to work. So those are some things that I see a lot.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's because of the commitment thing, you know, and you have to also look at where people are in space and time, because you could be the perfect partner doing all the right things, but your partner is not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And ain't gonna be there until they get there, until it's their time to get there. So how do you, first of all, a lot of times people think they can change people, and that's not happening. So when you find yourself in a situation like that, and you really like the person a lot, you don't want to give it up, and that's usually the case, how do you teach your students to be able to discern and pull away from that toxic relationship?
Yeah. So it always comes back to the relationship blueprint, what I was sharing about earlier, the patterning. You mentioned a toxic relationship, which is a really common way to describe a lot of relationships these days, that are just not optimally healthy for both people. And I would approach it by finding out what's going on for the person, either that's staying in a relationship for longer, like what they're getting out of it. Because when we're engaged in kind of funny business in relationship, either we're, clinging on to something that's maybe not working for us or isn't what we say we want, or maybe, we're pushing someone away and we're avoiding relationship or these kinds of things. It's always good to inquire into, like, what is the person getting from that? What is that? I mean, and what are the costs to them? And, it's not just thinking about these things, but it's feeling it, like, wow, for example, it's very common, especially amongst women, I would say, I hear a lot like, wow, I'm always drawn to unavailable men, here I am, and I'm like ready for relationship and I can't get them to give me that attention I want. And it's not always the case, but it's very common that somewhere in their past, there was somebody, and it's often a parent, that wasn't available for them. And they just thought that, okay, I just need to do this to get their attention or that. And repeating that pattern in a relationship it's interestingly, like, as painful as it is, it's comforting because it's so familiar, so just sussing that stuff out, because we don't really give advice like, oh, okay, you should be with this person, or you should leave, or this isn't good for you. Like, I'm not really in that game because, how am I supposed to know what's good for a person? Right. But the inquiry, because when a person's really clear on what's driving them, then it makes it much easier to be like, oh, okay, I'm choosing to be in this situation, or I'm not.
That's very interesting.
We get to that place that, excuse me for just a minute. I thought I had turned this off. And right now we're in relationships are in a very strange place. We have people who think they want to be in a relationship, but they don't want all the commitment and responsibility of a relationship. How do you address that when you find that in your clients? Is that something that comes up? Yes, I want a relationship, but I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm not looking for anything long term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it depends on the person, because sometimes that's, maybe the person has just been married for 30 years and they got out of relationship and they want to play around a little while or something, or just meet people and date and keep things light. And that's the growth for them, that's a healthy, quote unquote, situation for them, or that's what they truly want, So that can be, truly what the person wants. But I think in many cases, and I think maybe what you're referring to is people that are kind of like, well, I want the goods, but I don't want to have to work for it. Like, I want all the good stuff that comes with relationship, but I don't want to have to put everything in. Yeah. I just think that's a recipe for disaster. I think that relationship is so rewarding potentially, but you have to put everything in for it to work. And I've worked with a lot of couples over the years, most of them are, still together and thriving, but some of them, it just sort of comes down to one or both people wasn't willing to grow and develop in the relationship and do the work. It's a lot of work, and it's not only work, but it's I just think there's no other way.
There's,
Absolutely.
well, I think reason I asked that, because you hear so many people who are, it's like there's a difference between getting married and having a relationship within that marriage. That's what I'm looking at. And so many people think that just because they're married or planning on getting married, that they're going to have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But that relationship is something that has to be created on the way in. I'm kind of asking you, is relationship something that has to be developed and created prior to considering marriage? Because once you're in marriage, that's no time to start developing a relationship.
Yes, ideally, people, we work with both singles and couples, and sometimes singles are like, well, shouldn't I wait till I'm in a relationship to like do this quote unquote work? And we're like, no, now you want to develop yourself, and then when you're in a relationship, this is our, what we think, is that if you have the context of the relationship be, growing and developing and learning, you're setting yourself up for a good path, on a good pathway. So I think as soon as the couple becomes aware that that's a good idea, they should start doing it. I mean, some couples, of course, we meet and they've been together for, 30, 40 years, and they just got married and they had the kids and they have their jobs and they're kind of like, so then they start the process there. You just got to start where you are, but the earlier, the better.
Right. Yes,
Excellent.
I agree, because people change, even in the relationship, things change. And I'm glad you mentioned about the communication, because that's the most critical piece.
Mm-hmm.
Is when you see the relationship going to the left, from your perspective, it's time to, sit down and talk about it. This is what I see. I'm not feeling it. What can we do to fix it? I mean, that sounds good, but of course, I've been married for over 20 years. We know it takes time to arrive, and constantly bringing that person to awareness. This is what I see. If you want me to see something different, then I think something different needs to happen.
Yes. And it's such a delicate topic, which is why the communication is so important, like intimacy and romance and this type of thing. Like, we all have so many strong feelings about it, whether we had a great upbringing or not, or we're in a relationship right now or not, and it's going well or not. It's like tender, it just touches all the deep parts of ourselves. So communicating with potential partners and partners, like, it really, that's why I said the communication should include honesty and love, because we're tender about this stuff, but we also need to say it.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody needs to be comfortable in a relationship and have some.
And relationships create relationships themselves. When you're in a relationship with someone, that automatically is going to touch some of your buttons that you haven't had touched in years, and trying to figure out how to deal with that is part of the relationship building. And again, you find many people who get married, and their biggest complaint is that, but they don't understand me. But a lot of that is because we don't understand ourselves. We haven't taken time actually to build a relationship with ourselves. What are my pressure points? What are things that I don't feel comfortable with? And then you take all that into a marriage, and everybody's supposed to be happy. And then one fine day, I always call it pulling the trunk out from the back of the closet, and you just dump all of that on your partner.
Yes.
And they're like, I don't even know who this is. What am I supposed to do with this?
Right. So, it's like, I didn't sign up for this. I thought you were just like happy and easygoing, and here you are telling me that like this and that. But we all have those issues in the trunks in our closets and everything. So just letting it all out. I mean, it's easier said than done, but it's, if you really start that as early as possible in a relationship, then it's just easier.
Yeah,
excellent. Glad to hear you say that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wow. We definitely have to have you back, because relationships is so much.
Yes.
So many moving parts. So again, how do people get in contact with you?
So anybody who's listening, who's interested in learning more about working with us, can set up a free love life consultation. So that's a conversation with me about whatever's most important to you romantically at the moment. Could be challenges, goals, desires, whatever. You can set up the consultation by texting 415-308-9580. And I'll also give you a link that people can click. And then if people just kind of want to browse around and not necessarily set this up yet, pleasurecourse.com is our website.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Alicia, for joining us. We definitely going to have you back, because we need the relationships to work for people. We need people to understand what makes relationships work. So we appreciate everything that you have to offer, and looking forward to more collaborations.
Thank you for having me. You ladies are such wonderful interviewers and conversationalists, and I enjoyed this a lot.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. We enjoyed you too.
Absolutely.
Your business, through Just Minding My Business Media, has exposure on internet radio, major social media platforms, and now TV. Through Just Minding My Business, dynamic digital marketing platform. Don't listen to the word on the street. Hear it for yourself. Visit jmmb.assistercircle.org to learn how you can take your business, your vision, to the next level. Voiceovers by RCH VoiceWorks, for when you want to be heard. Call 443-620-4115.
Thank you for tuning in to Just Minding My Business Radio. I'm your host, Ida Crawford.
And I'm your co-host, Ruth Haskins.
We hope you enjoyed the show and appreciate you stopping by. Many blessings to you and yours.